This video is sponsored by NVIDIA AI.
A blinding flash, a deafening roar, and an overwhelming wave of heat. You've managed to take shelter from a devastating nuclear blast, avoiding initial radiation. The immediate danger has passed, but now you're exposed to deadly residual radiation. Fallout exposure is no joke. It has a 95% fatality rate. Sometimes its impact is obvious, but other times it's happening deep inside you. Today, we'll explore how your body reacts to nuclear fallout exposure over time. We'll cover the progression of radiation sickness hour by hour, day by day, and even years later. How long can you live after radiation exposure? When will the telltale symptoms start to appear? And would all the fallout turn you into a mutated ghoul? We'll answer these questions and more in a minute, but first, let's get the basics straight.
Here at How to Survive, we're all about survival, even when it comes to everyday tasks like surviving the tough demands of being a video creator. But thankfully, with NVIDIA AI, you can save countless hours of writing, recording, and even editing. With NVIDIA AI as your co-pilot, you can create and edit entire videos with just a few simple text prompts. Start by telling it about the type of video you want. The more detailed the prompt, the better. And then select the right audience and platform for your video. And presto! NVIDIA AI will create an engaging script, find high-quality footage relevant to your videos, add subtitles, and even create a human-sounding voiceover to get you started.
Thrashing around makes you look like a tasty fish snack.
Need it in a different language? No problem.
Mais s'agiter dans tous les sens vous fait ressembler.
Wow, sounds pretty good. And the best part? You can upload a simple 30-second recording of your voice in any language you want, and it can clone it. If a shark gets too close for comfort, get defensive. Pretty mind-blowing, right? Want to give it a try? You can get started for free and create up to 4 videos a week. But if you're looking to clone your voice and create high-quality videos without a watermark, then I highly recommend getting the paid plan like I have. For only $20 a month, you'll have access to millions of royalty-free stock footage clips and save hundreds of dollars every month that you'd otherwise spend on editing tools, stock footage subscriptions, and more. Head over to the link in the description and use my code HowToSurvive50 to get twice the number of video generation credits in your first month. And now, back to the show.
To be precise, it's ionizing radiation we're worried about.
Ionizing radiation tears the cellular structure apart.
A type of energy released by atoms in the form of electromagnetic waves or particles. Ionizing radiation has enough energy to knock electrons off of atoms, turning them into ions. Imagine your body is a city and your cells are the buildings. Ionizing radiation is like a series of powerful lightning strikes hitting the city. Each strike can destroy buildings, cause fires, and blackouts. In your body, this means damaged DNA, malfunctioning cells, and an increased risk of cancer. Okay, that said, let's begin this tragic journey and see what it really takes to survive the aftermath of a nuclear bomb. Right after the blast, you're hit by intense heat and the shockwave from the explosion. The immediate thermal radiation can cause third-degree burns, even miles away from the epicenter. If you're closer, the blast can result in blunt force trauma and lacerations from flying debris. So basically, if you don't want to be burned or crushed to death, you need to find shelter immediately. Preferably someplace sturdy with thick walls like a basement or an underground shelter. This will offer some protection from the initial fallout, a deadly cloud of radioactive particles that descends like invisible dust. If you were exposed to gamma rays and neutrons, well, they've already passed through your body, causing molecular and cellular damage. You might have heard of an over-the-counter pill that saves you from radiation. Well, while it does exist, it only protects you from one kind of radiation. Potassium iodide, often abbreviated as Ki, works by flooding the thyroid gland with stable, non-radioactive iodine. The thyroid gland is a small gland in your neck that regulates important bodily functions through hormone production. And Ki prevents it from absorbing any radioactive iodine that enters your body.
The CDC says these tablets work, but only for 24 hours. Meaning they can block the intake of radioactive iodine for just 1 day.
Ideally, you should have got the pills and instructions from your local health department. 1 hour later, you're already dealing with initial radiation exposure. Radioactive particles from the fallout will be all around you, causing external contamination if they settle on your skin and clothing. If you inhale or ingest any of these particles, you're in for a rough ride. You might suddenly feel nauseous and start vomiting. These are the first signs of radiation sickness. That's your body's immediate response to the intense radiation damage occurring at a cellular level. If you have access to clean water, wash yourself thoroughly to remove any radioactive particles from your skin and hair. Avoid using conditioner as it can bind radioactive particles to your hair. Yeah, I don't care how soft and shiny it makes your hair look because, well, you may not have any hair left if things get worse. Within the first few hours, the acute radiation syndrome, ARS, begins to take hold. ARS is an illness that occurs when the entire body, or most of it, is exposed to a high dose of penetrating radiation. Unlike chronic radiation exposure, which happens over a long period, ARS results from a sudden, intense burst of radiation. That's what makes it acute. The first phase, known as the prodromal phase, kicks in with intense nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, which is especially not fun if you picked a shelter without a toilet. Your cells are slowing down at this point, especially the rapidly dividing ones in your gastrointestinal tract and bone marrow. Your body is under attack and the clock is ticking. And while you really need medical help, you can't go outside just yet. Better yet, seal all the windows, doors, and ventilation systems to prevent radioactive particles from getting in. You'll thank me later. After your first day, your symptoms aren't letting up. Your body is trying desperately to get rid of toxins out of both ends. And, well, it's super nasty and exhausting. Your skin might start to show signs of erythema, a reddening due to radiation burns. It'll look like a sunburn, but it's the first sign of something worse. At this point, it's critical to stay in your shelter and avoid any further exposure to radioactive particles. Listen to emergency broadcasts for instructions on when it might be safe to leave your shelter. And don't let anyone in. Unless you want to risk further contamination. Yeah, I'm sorry, but your neighbor is out of luck. A deceptive period follows after a couple of days, the latent phase. Your symptoms may improve, giving you a false sense of recovery. But don't go celebrating just yet. During this time, your body is attempting to repair the massive cellular damage inflicted by the radiation. Continue to avoid any additional exposure and conserve your energy. Stay hydrated and try to rest as much as possible. And count your blessings because you're gonna need them for this next phase. By the end of the first week, the manifest illness phase begins. This is when your stomach goes haywire. You'll experience extreme dehydration and an imbalance of electrolytes. Let's hope you have some Gatorade on hand. The hematopoietic syndrome sets in as your bone marrow's ability to produce blood cells worsens. You'll have severe diarrhea, infections, bleeding, and extreme fatigue. If you still haven't had any medical help, focus on hydration and try to find any available sources of clean water and basic nutrients. As the weeks go by, the damage to your bone marrow continues to bring a handful of nasty conditions. Anemia causes fatigue and weakness due to a lack of red blood cells. Leukopenia increases your risk of infection because of a low white blood cell count. Thrombocytopenia means you'll bruise and bleed more easily due to a shortage of platelets. Radiation also affects hair follicles, so don't be shocked if you start losing some hair. And although your skin won't necessarily melt like in some movies, it can develop blisters, peeling, and changes in pigmentation. You won't turn into a mutated ghoul, but things can still get pretty ugly for you. The best you can do now is to stay as clean and infection-free as possible. Any open wounds need to be kept sterile. In the first 6 months following the exposure, long-term effects begin to manifest. Organs like your heart, lungs, and kidneys might start to experience chronic damage at this point. And your risk of developing leukemia and other cancers has skyrocketed from all the damage to your DNA. Regular medical screenings are crucial for early detection of cancers and ongoing health issues. Over the next decade, you'll be dealing with chronic health issues. That organ damage we mentioned earlier, it's gotten a whole lot worse. Pulmonary fibrosis causes lung tissue to become scarred and stiff. That leads to chronic cough, severe shortness of breath, and fatigue. Your kidneys stop filtering waste from the blood effectively, resulting in high blood pressure and swelling in your legs and feet. And damage to the blood vessels in your heart increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases. Exposure to fallout might have affected your fertility too, so get checked if you're planning on having kids. This whole situation is devastating, to say the least. We wish that the impact of nuclear fallout on victims existed only in theory, but unfortunately, humans have experienced its devastating effects firsthand. And the worst part is, it could happen again. To understand why a nuclear war today could be the end of humankind, check out our video on the true scale of nuclear weapons, right here on How to Survive.